Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. I was doing some research tonight on blood moons. The third blood moon is coming up April 4th, this Saturday, 2 days from today. I want to point out that tomorrow, April 3rd, is the 93rd day of the year, Truth Seeker. But in researching these blood moons, I came across something very curious about my home state, Washington, and something to look for. In 1949, on April 13th, there was a blood moon. 1949 is 66 years ago. And look at what time this earthquake happened at. This is the largest recorded earthquake in the Puget Sound region to date. It was rivaled by the earthquake that came 52 years later. Similar spot. But to date, this is the largest one, the 1949 April 13th at 11:55 local time. And there are a number of 66 connections here. What I want you to realize before we get into them is that USGS, what records and reports earthquake data, United States Earthquake Reporting Service, sums to 66. USGS with simple English gematria equals 66. In very recent history, the San Francisco Giants won the World Series 66 days after having their worst earthquake since the 1989 World Series. See that? The Giants had their worst earthquake this past year since the World Series earthquake, and then they won the World Series 66 days after the earthquake. World Series sums to 66 with the S exception. The day the Giants won the World Series was October 29th, 2014. This was a day with 53 numerology. There was a hint earlier in the day about a fan with 53 name gematria being found 110 miles from where he was last seen. This was the 110th World Series that the Giants won. His name equaled 53. They ended up winning the World Series on a 53 date. Their coach has a 53 name. And on this date, the Giants then won 3 of the last 5 World Series. I want to point out that hell in Jewish gematria sums to 53. And when you think of hell, you think of Satan. The Church of Satan was established in San Francisco in the year 66. You know? I wish this stuff was all a coincidence, but I am certain it is not. The numerology of the date April 13th, 49, that's 4 plus 13 equals 17, plus 49 more equals 66. So the date of this had 66 numerology. The other way, where you just add it digit for digit, it sums to 31. That's the foundational degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Notice 31 is 3 plus 1 equals 4 in numerology. This date, 4 is 4. 13 is 1 plus 3 becomes 4. 49 is 4 plus 9 becomes 13. 1 plus 3 becomes 4. So in a way, this date is a coded 444 as well. And remember, this was a blood moon, April 13th, 1949. 66 years later, on April 4th, 2015, 2 days from now, it's also a blood moon. And Truth Seeker, blood moon has that important gematria of 42. That's relevant to Washington State because it's the 42nd state in order of statehood. It's named after George Washington, who was born February 11th, the 42nd day of the year. That's why Washington State is the 42nd state, because George Washington was born on the 42nd day in the meaning of life number. Here's the blood moon from April 13th, 1949. We'll have one of these in 2 days, the first day of Passover. On this day in history, the NBA had their first championship in the year 47. In that year, the Minnesota Lakers, now the Los Angeles Lakers, beat the Washington Capitals 4-2. A lot like 42 on a blood moon. And what's the gematria of blood moon? 42. None of this stuff's a coincidence, Truth Seeker. This is how the world's been hooked up. We've been living through this our whole lives, just not aware of it. Because it's so well done. It's a well-oiled machine. And this isn't in our consciousness. No one ever told us that so much is being rigged by the numbers. 1949 Olympia earthquake. Here's the stats, Truth Seeker. Look at this cute detail from Wikipedia. 11:55 and 42 seconds. Har har. 40-second state on the day of a blood moon. 6.7 is another interesting number. The word satanic equals 67, as does west and water and organic. And Christopher, who sailed west like Christopher Columbus, CC 33. True Seeker, to date, this is the only earthquake that I've ever felt with my own body. I was in my senior year of high school. I was in psychology class. I was well over 100 miles from this. And we rocked for a long period of time. A very long period of time. Last year about this time, Washington had the landslide in Ozo, Washington. Washington has a Pythagorean gematria of 49. Ozo has a simple English gematria of 49. Recall that earthquake we've been talking about was in the year 49. Perhaps that was a mental prep for what's coming. They started a campaign months ago, Oh So Strong. They still have the billboards up. Maybe they're preparing us for a real disaster. That was a fake manufactured disaster. The other thing this makes me wonder, Truth Seeker, is if the people behind the Manhattan Project, which began in the year 42, number we're talking a lot about, if these madmen, if they didn't build massive bombs and possibly plant them underground along fault lines. Is that absurd to think? I think it's within the realm of possibility. I think it might be exactly what they've done. Imagine that our fault lines are loaded up with ticking time bombs, essentially, waiting to go off on their specific dates according to the numerology, according to the astrology. It's sick, Truth Seeker. I'm pretty sure this is what they've done. I think April 13th, 1949, the madmen had their way that day. They're really hinting at something big for the San Andreas fault line. So if something happens in Washington, I think it'll just be prep for still the main event. You know, like in a boxing match. There's several bouts before the main event. I think we're still building up to the main event. But let's watch Washington State and the whole Pacific Northwest. Oregon got a very weird earthquake on April 6th, the 96th day of the year at 3.3 depth as they reported it, 3.3 on the scale. Oregon's the 33rd state. So Oregon and Washington, neighboring states, 33rd and 42nd. Keep your eyes on these states. There's been a lot of hinting, a lot of foreshadowing up here lately. And I suspect the same is true in other parts of the country. But of course, I have more of an eye on this because I live up here. And with regards to 96, the 96th day of the year, the word San Andreas with simple English gematria sums to 96. With Pythagorean, it sums to 33. These fault lines are clearly named by the madmen, and they've probably had plans all along. We've been living in their world, their narrative, while they build it around us. Developing weapons to shake fault lines might have been in their planning. All right, Truth Seeker. Hope the message is clear. Until next time.